huge the forestry industry is, the information that I obtain in this workshop is truly going to impact how I teach forestry in the classroom to my students. It's a huge and great opportunity for teachers. I personally enjoyed the sawmill, seeing how the actual raw log came through the entire sawmill, how computers are playing a big role in just breaking down each log to utilize the most out of that wood. I think this is going to definitely make me a better educator as far as influencing my kids on forestry and sustainability of forestry here in the region, in this state, in South Carolina.
The sustainable teacher experiences was one of the most memorable that I've had in a while. A 20-plus veteran teacher, this came at an awesome time to rejuvenate me, make me excited to take some new ideas back to my students. From the time we walked into the door, one of the first activities that we saw was the mind wheel, and we could use tree cookies or branches to represent our comfort level in knowledge about certain topics in forestry. So I'm taking that idea back to tomorrow to use with my teacher leaders next week. We did things such as the tree factory. We've got a plethora of resources, and I'm excited about that. One of the most memorable moments for me, though, was at Montgomery Community College. Seeing the passion that those students had for what they're doing, you can't hide that. Watching how excited they were and how they taught us things like DBH, how to measure that, and then analyzing the bark of a tree and talking about some of the research that they're doing with planting new trees, and they couldn't hide their excitement, and that just thrilled the teacher in me. My phone call on the bus ride home was to my husband, and I said, this is what our son should totally do. I could see him in that element. I can't wait to get back to my teachers. I'm actually going to see them this afternoon, and I'm taking tons of resources, and I want to thank you, North Carolina Forestry, Amy, and for everyone that played a part in making this week so great. You do not know just what it meant for us to bond with each other and for what the difference we're going to make for our students. Thank you.
So at the Sustainable Forestry Experience for teachers, one of my most memorable moments was going through the Troy Lumber Factory and actually seeing pine trees come in as whole logs, be debarked, and then the finished product was 2x4s that could be used for construction. Adam there took us through a step-by-step process looking at the different machines that was used, and I guess the aha for that was that even though there's a lot of automation with machines that make the work easier, you still have to have manual human people to do repairs, maintenance, setup, saw replacement. Like it's just a huge need for humans to be a part of this industry.
The reason I signed up for this particular workshop is because I mainly teach oceanography. I mean, 80% of my course load is oceanography, and so my world revolves around sea life and everything on the coastline, but I don't know a ton about our forestry resources. So I decided my biology students needed a little more plant-based education, so I signed up for this, and it has been a completely eye-opening experience. I know so much more about forestry than I ever did before. My brother laughed at me when I signed up for this. He was a horticulture major, and he said, "You don't know anything about trees?" And I said, "Well, now I do." And so, but being able to walk through the lumber mills at Troy and actually being able to go out to Jordan and see the two different sites and see the different growth stands that they have, so the newer trees, the mid trees, and the trees that are about to be kind of cut down, was an awesome opportunity to see that sustainable forestry in practice. My personal favorite part of this entire experience was going out to Montgomery Community College and actually getting to work with the students there, and they had such great insight into this sustainable forestry as a career. So forestry as, something that you can do straight out of high school, something that you need a 2-year degree for, that you don't necessarily have to spend if you are not destined for a four-year university, to actually be able to go into this and find something that you are good at, and something that can regain your love of learning and love of science. And it's not necessarily something that we all grow up knowing, is all about the trees and forestry, especially if you come from where I'm from, where we have a bunch of city kids that have never been out in the woods and have never, learned about forestry. It's a lot of farming out where we are. And so they either are city, they're either farm, they know nothing about the woods themselves. Besides Montgomery, I absolutely loved being able to walk around Troy. So that was a phenomenal experience, to be able to see the lumber in action, and to kind of imagine, where that was going to be taken, and those trees themselves, what was being replaced by those trees that were being cut down. So we got to see kind of throughout the week. It almost took us from a start to finish. So we saw the trees themselves, we saw them being produced into lumber, we went to Domtar, we saw them being produced into fine paper products, and then we eventually went on to see them kind of being used for particle board and some of our furniture that we, of course, have plenty of in our households today.
These few days have been very interesting for me. I learned a lot. I do have background in forestry previously from overseas, but I do learn a lot this time. It's different what I thought as forestry as what I learn now, because the trees, the forest are there to be protected, but also remember, if you don't use it, you lose it. If you have the cow, you have to sell it for meat, and you have to grow new ones. So it's the same for forests and the trees. I learned that you have to use forest trees. We have to use forestry. Then probably the way that you can make sure they get some revenues, get some money from. So in other words, you can use the forest, you can sell them, cut down, plant new ones. Then by doing so, you will have income come in, out. It was an amazing program, really amazing.
Probably my favorite part of the experience was going to Weymouth Woods down in the Southern Pines area. What I liked about it was that when we drove in, it looks like a lot of pine forests that all of us have seen in some regard, and it appears to be not that diverse. Just looks like a bunch of pine barrens, but we saw a presentation by a ranger there, and he named species after species of things that are unique to pine barrens, and specifically to longleaf pine barrens. Things like the red cockaded woodpecker. It used to be there were longleaf pines all up and down the East Coast, and at this point there are just relatively small, deliberate pockets of it. And having the opportunity to be there and to see some of those things and exist in those spaces was really interesting, because again, like, it starts out appearing to be, to the naked eye, kind of mundane, but then unfolding and unpacking, here's all the things that are unique about it that you might not have noticed or might not have known. And that I thought was a really excellent educational experience. It was interesting too to speak to the notion of fire and controlled burns in forestry, in which with these longleaf pine stands, they need to be burned intermittently, or else you can end up with a fire that is strong enough in rarer burns that can kill the trees. It's the kind of thing that would happen naturally. They showed us all the different controls they do. It is good to know that fire is not all bad, and the ways that they would use it and control it and be deliberate. I mean, I thought that the workshops were interesting and showed me things that I didn't know, but certainly my favorite thing on a personal level, on an emotional level, was the warmth and vulnerability of a lot of the other participants in this, that I feel like I'll have connections with some of the people who participated here with me, and even the variety of people that are here, the places they come from, the stories that I got even out of my roommate, I think were all really worthwhile and are things that I will take with me beyond the mechanics of forestry and forestry lesson plans, which again themselves are worthy, but I think it is the human element here, which is of the greatest value.
Okay, I was asked how the workshop related to my class K through 5, and all I can say is I have lots of resources for hands-on activities. I have ways to get my students to relate to these issues that are out there now, and hopefully have them contribute their ideas and concerns to feel a part of something and connected. The most memorable moment on this workshop would have to be when I realized how important it is to capture my children's interest now, so that our future has a strong chance at sustainability in the future. We've got to get them invested in this. It is important to me. It's going to be very important to them and to their children. So let's start now. Inspiring.
Enlightening.
Fellowship.
Excellence.
Sustainable.
Invigorating.
Responsibility.
Eye-opening.